1979, I was 15 and I desperately wanted a 35mm camera. I had been using a TLR camera with 120, which was a nice camera, but I just longed for a 35mm camera. The problem was I was 15 without much money, and I had saved some money up, but cameras were they seemed to a kid of 15 expensive. And I remember going along to my local camera shop, and they had second hand. The best I could afford was a Zorki, and it was a Zorki 4K. I'm not talking about the 4K today, I'm talking about the Zorki 4. Zorki, Russian cameras, based the original Zorkis look like a Leica 3. I've had a couple nice cameras, lovely to use, can have a few problems, not the same build quality, but something definitely to consider, and you can get good working examples. The Zorki line went from Zorki 1, which was very much, it was a Leica copy. Zorki 2 began to be a bit different, and Zorki 3, the rangefinder became bigger, and this is the Zorki 4. Which was a little bit more streamlined. I think it originally came out in about 58, 59, and the thing about Russian cameras, a lot of them you can actually tell the date because the first two digits of the number, this is a 68, so this is made in 1968. The good things about the Zorki, from a user point of view, it's as close as getting to a Leica as you might get, and the lenses are actually good. You can get some very sharp images. They are f2, so it's sharp, and actually for me it taught me a lot about a camera. One of the odd things is, to load a Zorki you have to remove the back, so you undo those and you put the film in here. We have a cloth shutter, and this is where the Zorki sometimes fail, but this is where Leicas can fail. We have a cloth shutter here, and we should have a take-up spool here. And so film goes in. Now, focusing, we have a rangefinder, so we line up two images. With a rangefinder you get a slight, very faint image in the middle, so you get a double image, two images, and you line those images up, and when they are lined up that is in focus. And this is a coupled rangefinder, so you can see it through your viewfinder, these double images. So we set our aperture. If it's sunny, 16, let's say it's sunny, so we set 16, 125 on the top, focus, take. Now, the big difference between the Zenith 4 and the 4K is the 4K is a slightly more luxury version and later version that we can actually wind on here. On here we actually have to wind here, and as we wind you will see the shutters being set. Be really careful that you've made sure you round on before resetting the shutter. So I have round on, so I can set the shutter to a different speed if I want to. If you have set it and then change, you can make, before you round on, you can really mess up the shutter. You must round on first. And the final thing about this camera is to wind the film back, press and wind the collar left, and then that will release the gear and you can wind back. Okay, it's got a diopter, so you can diopter control. So on the viewfinder you can focus the viewfinder, that's quite useful. It has a self timer. I had one of these for about 3 years when I was, as I said, 15 to 18. It taught me about aperture, it taught me about depth of field. There were things I didn't like about it. I was dying to get single lens reflex camera, and I used to find trying to use a separate meter was a bit of a pain. But I've really learned about shutter speeds, I learned about aperture, and it will do 1,000 per second, and I took some sports photographs I was really pleased with. There was quite a lot of photographs which I got from this camera which I was surprised about. As I said, for the f2, it's quite good for indoor shots. The case was always a bit of a pain, because the case, you must make sure these little things are down, but the case has a really annoying thing that if you have round your film on, the case doesn't quite fit and the top, and it was inclined, if you had round on, to set the camera off again. So it was best not to round on until you had opened the case. So there were one or two things about the camera which were annoying, but as I said, I found the lens was sharp and it taught me a lot. Let's see what this one was like when I put a film through it. You can see how sharp the lens is just on this first shot. It's very clear, it's sharp, the contrast is absolutely fine. Now this is a very dull day in December, and yet at I think I was about f4, I might have gone 3.8. But as you can see by this menu here, we are in focus, it's clear, it's well exposed, everything's fine. Now later on a few shots, I found you can see this little sort of overexposed part, which I wasn't sure, and I'm still not convinced whether it's curtains or a small light leak. What made me think it might be it's not on absolutely every photo, but it's in quite a lot of them. What made me think it might not be curtains was when I actually shone a torch on curtains, they didn't seem to have any holes in or any leaks, and they seemed to be quite together, and I think if they were slightly apart I would have had more issues. I think it's probably a bit of a light leak, but I'm not absolutely convinced. But the camera was sharp, the lens is good, it was quite nice to use. I do get a little bit fed up with the case, that when you shut the camera case, if you have round on, it just takes another photo. I have a Zorki 4K still, which I'm looking forward to for having a go with. The Zorki lenses, as I said, in my experience are very good. Thank you for watching, hope to see you again soon, bye.